Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our outdoor recreation webinar this morning. I'm going to give it one more minute just to see if we have anybody else that's going to be signing in, and then we will start our webinar. So we'll be right back. All right. It does, if you're not already muted, if you will mute your lines. It looks like most people are, but just in case. And then I would like to let everybody know that we're going to have the webinar. At the end of the webinar, we will have a question and answer period. So anytime during the webinar, if you want to go ahead and drop your questions into the chat box, and then at the end, I'll go through those questions and we'll let Jack answer them. If we don't get to all of them, that's fine. What we'll do is we can do a follow-up email to everyone, and we'll post those answers in the follow-up email. So this morning, we're going to have Jack Kostrzewa. He is going to be talking about the Capital City to Sea Trail. He's with the Capital Regional Transportation Planning Agency. He's been with the agency, which used to be the Tallahassee-Leon County Metropolitan Planning Organization. But he's been with them for 30 years. Originally, his work included projects such as long-range transportation plans, road studies, transportation systems, modeling. His emphasis widened in the last 15 years towards the development of multimodal systems, including the CRTPA regional trails effort. The Capital City to Sea Trail is one of those regional projects. Specific projects include the Lake Jackson Eco Passage along the North Monroe Street, the Capital City to Sea Master Plan, Tallahassee-Leon County Bike and Pedestrian Master Plan, Thomasville Road Multi-Use Plan, as well as trails linking Tallahassee-Leon County to Gadsden County and Jefferson County. None of these projects were completed in a vacuum, as he says, and could not have been completed without the dedication of the entire staff at CRTPA. Jack says he loves Florida State University so much that he went to school there twice, once for his BA in communications and then once for his master's in urban and regional planning. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Jack. He's going to be talking to you for about 20 minutes, and then we'll have some questions and answers.
Thanks, Sam. You pretty much well covered my presentation. So if there's any questions, I think we can probably just jump right to the end. So of all those things that Sam listed off that I've done or that I still may do, the one thing that we've really gotten away from is modeling. That career ended a long time ago. So I'm not really doing that anymore with the transportation modeling, because it's very much a fine art that if you don't stay in, you're really kind of out of it. So I don't know where everybody's from. That's in this webinar. So I'm going to give you a little bit of an idea about where we are located, Sam. Oh, there we go. Okay. So the CRTPA is in Tallahassee, Florida. We represent Jefferson County, Gadsden County, Leon County, and Wakulla County as an organization for transportation planning. And that means that everything transportation related, trails, roads, paths, intersections, policy, so forth, that we try to cover as much as we can safety wise as well. So more recently, I'm sure that if you're not in the transportation field, you don't know this, but projects themselves have gone up in costs. And so we've been really doing a lot more trail work, I think, in terms of planning than we have road work because of just the kind of the backlog of projects that are out there for funding from the Department of Transportation. So, but we like doing trails. I think we've been pretty successful in getting some work done in terms of our regional trail system, which is what I'm going to talk to you all about today and present to you. Effectively, we have we're trying to connect all 4 of our counties, and some of these connections have been there for a while. So it's not a surprise that when you build a path like the St. Mark's Trail, that's kind of a backbone system kind of project. But in terms of systems, we started working on the Capital City to the Sea Trail back in 2013 with a master plan, which identified a whole slew of different roads and connections. And so from a master plan perspective, the Capital City to the Sea trail system is the only one that we've done in terms of a master plan to move forward with. We have a northern trail and we've got some connections in between, which I'll talk to you about in a few minutes. But this one, the Capital City to the Sea Trail is a collection of different roads, different trails based on their access and the backbone kind of systems that I'm going to show you right now are the Class 1 trails, which are the major connections to locations, major locations. So here you can see we've got the St. Mark's Trail. We've got the on the south end, there's the Coastal Trail, which runs from Lighthouse Road all the way to Sop Choppy now. Well, to Surf Road, and then picks up the Ocklackney Bay Trail, which goes from Massachusetts Sands to Sop Choppy. In between that major trail system, we've got what we would consider Class 2 trails, which are kind of connections in between. And we started working on some of these as well. The 267 trail is the one that we're working on right now, which is connecting the St. Mark's Trail to Wakulla Springs State Park. And then the third systems are more internal connections, local connections to other activities in other areas, down to the beaches, down to the lighthouse, and across the purple line through the middle, there is Martin Luther King Road in Wakulla County. So collectively, from this map to this map, these are the phases that are completed, which include the St. Mark's Trail, the Coastal Trail, and the Ocklackney Bay Trail. These 2 projects that I have up now are the completions, are recently completed projects, which again takes the Coastal Trail from the St. Mark's Trail out to Lighthouse Road, which, by the way, I want to say opened, I want to say maybe a month ago. We got an email from the contractor that project is done. And then anybody who lives in Tallahassee can see that is maybe familiar with the widening of Capitol Circle Southwest from Spring Hill Road to Orange Avenue, and that's underway. And that's a pretty massive project, but there is, for the most part, a trail that's completed along that road and at this time. So collectively, I've added those together to say that we've got about 72, little over 72, almost 73 miles worth of trails that are completed. There are some other trails that are programmed for construction, and that includes the MLK project down in Wakulla County, as well as the completion of Capitol Circle widening from Woffordville Road to Spring Hill Road. And that'll add about another 3.5 miles to the system. In terms of design phases, the purple corridor that just showed up is the 267 trail, which will connect Wakulla Springs to the St. Mark's Trail. And then in terms of working on projects in the near future, there would be the extension of the 267 trail to Spring Hill Road. And ultimately, I think when we move forward with that, we're also going to be taking a look at taking it up Spring Hill Road and finding a way to connect it to Capitol Circle. So that's kind of a lengthy project, but I think that's next in line after hopefully we get funding for Sun Trails for the current phase of the 267 project to Wakulla Springs Road. or we'll call it Springs, sorry. And then we do have projects that are not programmed. These are, and there's multiple potential locations that these can go. So there's nothing been really nailed down. There are a lot of fire roads out there that you can use to get down to Sop Choppy and down to the Ocklawahnee River if you want to work your way through there. But we are not actively working on anything south of 267 at this point, because we're kind of backlogged with projects trying to get things done in the near future. I'm sure that we'll be able to work with the National Forest or the forest to get work on that trail from Trout Pond up to Capitol Circle. And then we do have obviously projects that aren't programmed, that aren't funded and don't have multiple locations. And again, those are localized roads, and those are not right now in a 5-year or 10-year program. So in total, the Capital City to the Sea Trails is around a little over 200 miles worth of trails, and it includes some really great connections. With and the one that I've dealt with the most and been more involved with is the Coastal Trail. And I've heard a lot of people say that it's a really nice trail because of the way that it doesn't run along the road for the most part. There are parts that go down by the road and crossing the bridges, but for the most part, you can go up into the trees and pretty closer to the right of way, because it's like 200 feet of right of way out there. So when you're working on these trails, we are looking for the ones that have enough right of way to perform the construction of these projects without needing right of way. Because these projects typically we're looking for to fund through the Sun Trails program. And in order to do that, we want to make sure that they're actually viable projects. So that's the status of the current projects that we have out there. This just kind of provides a timeline of where we were and where we've been so far. The construction of the Coastal Trail actually started in 2016 and just wrapped up this year. So it's been 8 years since the beginning to the end of construction for 24 miles worth of trail. And we continue to look for improvements. The latest improvement was a parking lot at the intersection of the St. Mark's Trail and the Coastal Trail. So I think there's like 3 or 4 parking spots and a handicap spot to access those 2 trails. And from that point, you can really go, if you really feel the need to go to Sop Choppy and you want to go to Sop Choppy, you can ride all the way over there from the Ocklawahnee Bay Trail from that location. And you're probably talking, I'm going to guess like 36 miles or so. But there are some long distance corridors in there. If you wanted to ride from Cascades Park to Sop Choppy, it's about 50 miles one way. If you wanted to ride out to the lighthouse, you're probably talking, I want to say about 26 miles one way. So you can, if you want to put on some miles, maybe even further than that, down to the lighthouse from Cascades. But if you want to ride long distances and stay on a shared use path, that's available for you to do so. We also have seen some movement in having other facilities looked at in terms of maybe the provision of some rest areas and so forth along the route. But there are, again, the idea with accessing local stores, there is a marathon along the Coastal Trail, and there's several stores and restaurants along the trail that people do frequent, and we've stopped that before, like in Hammerknockers, and don't want to say that that's the only one out there, but there are, Hammerknockers is right there on the trail. And they got really good food, so don't be shy. So in terms of a 5-year completion, we're hoping to have Capitol Circle Trail, we'll call the Springs Trail, and the MLK Trail completed, and then feasibility with some of these other trails so that there's the potential to add these additional projects in maybe a 10-year time frame, which means the system would bump up from 73 miles to about 100 miles worth of trails. And the idea with taking 267 over is to create a smaller loop coming down Woodville, going back 267, going up Spring Hill using Capitol Circle. So you'd have an interior loop. And if you wanted to go down for longer distances, like that's not long enough, you could also go to those other areas as well. So from the Coastal Trail, which is shown on this map, we move to what I'll call the North Capital City Trail, which effectively started as the US 90 trail, which went from It goes all the way from Jefferson County over to Jackson County in the CRTPA region. The issue with something that we had with the 90 trail is that when you get into Tallahassee, you have very, very limited right of way, and the opportunities for building that trail were far and few between. But we recognize that we have so many partners out there that are trying to build trails and that are constructing trails, including Leon County, Blueprint Intergovernmental Agency. We have Gadsden County, the CRTPA. So actively, while this looks like it's a singular trail system, the projects are actually broken down pretty heavily, chopped apart by jurisdiction and who's working on each project. From the perspective of ones that are for the most part done, you've got the Quincy bypass or State Road 12, which has a very wide shoulder on it, and then the Miccosukee Greenway. Again, those are, one is DOT, one is Leon County. For other projects that are underway, we have the Bannerman Road project and the Wilani Trail, which are Blueprint intergovernmental agency projects. And then currently we have the US 90 trail from Edenfield Road to Jefferson County in a project development and environment phase. And we do have funding for design from SunTrail, I want to say in 2027. If I'm correct, and that's a long distance right there. So that will take quite a while to get that designed and get through the PD&E. So be looking for that in the near future. And then we also have trails again with Gadsden County and Blueprint, and these trails are the Havana Trail, and then there is a small trail. Project number 7 is the Orchard Pond Trail, which would connect from the trailhead over to Meridian Road. And again, some of these are various phases, and these you can see are design phase projects. And then we get down to PD&Es, and we are looking for PD&E funding for the Orchard Pond Trail. It's an existing trail. Actually, it's a dirt trail, and the county approached us and wanted to know if there was an interest in paving that as part of the SunTrail system. So we have pursued that. We have applications in with SunTrails right now to get some funding for PD&E phases. And then over on the eastern side of the CRTPA region, we've got the connection from Leon County to Monticello along US 90. And then finally, these are the projects that we still are seeking looking to start. And some of them do have smaller projects on them, like project number 13 is Edenfield Road. The county is going to be building a sidewalk along that road, so there's at least a way to get from US 90 to the Orchard or to the Miccosukee Greenway. And then on the western side, projects 10 and 11 are connections from the Orchard or from SR 12 along the US 90 corridor out over to Jackson County or we'll just say Chattahoochee, and then over into Jackson County through another system. So again, collectively, we've got 4 or 5 different agencies working on projects here. And this is not a master plan. This is where I talked about the capital city to the sea is a master planned component. And that is in and of itself something that we have a guidance. These are all individual components fitting together in this puzzle to make this corridor happen. Collectively, this system from Chattahoochee to Madison County is 93 miles. So again, there's parts and pieces that are moving on this at pretty fast speed, and others that are going to have to get back up to speed and get up to speed with where everything else is at. So you can anticipate that in the near future that Bannerman Road number 3 and number 4 from the Wilani Trail will be completed within 2 to 3 years, I believe. And then there'll be other connections, I think, that as we move along, and I show you the other maps that we're trying to make connections to that are available and potentially within that 10-year period, going to be a really great connection. So we've gone from having the capital city to the sea trails and then moving into the CRTPA northern trails or the North Capital City trails. And then in between, we're working on connecting trails. And some of these trails are already constructed. And again, some of them are sidewalks that we can, that we can hopefully improve upon as this project moves forward. But there is the Goose Pond connection, the Goose Pond Trail, which connects from Hermitage Boulevard to Park Avenue. And there's the Capital City Trail, Capital Circle Trail, sorry, which goes from effectively Tennessee Street over to St. Augustine Road. And then the third one is the Pedrick Road, Lafayette Heritage, Piney Goose Pond, US 90, Appalachian Parkway Trail, which has to be collectively put together some way, so I don't have to spend a whole breath trying to say that name. So those are all in place now, and I think probably one of the most popular ones is the Lafayette Heritage Park Trail. There are people out there every day. There's just tons of people, and on the weekend, it's just crazy how many people go out there to enjoy the weather, get out and get in a walk. So collectively in there, we also have the Thomasville Road Trail, which would connect Metropolitan Boulevard to Benton Road. And then there's other projects. And again, a lot of these are, we have some blueprint intergovernmental agency projects in here. There's one that's a connection from Market District up to Maclay Road, which would be number 7. And then there's other connections within Welaunee, which would be project number 10. And then there is a project that Blueprint has in their greenways plan that would take the connection from Maclay all the way up to the Georgia state line. So there are other things underway, and again, we're all collectively moving in that direction. And there is also the University Trail down number 5, which connects Lake Bradford Road and Cascades Park to Capitol Circle to the west. So from there, we took the Capital City to the Sea trails. We have the northern trails, and we have the connection trails to try to make those connections regionally. So you have the opportunity at some point to not have to get in a car to go anywhere. You'll be able to ride these trails and not have to get on a road at all. And that's, I think, the ultimate goal is what we're trying to do. And excuse me, most of these trails have that availability to do just that. And that's what we're really looking forward to, is making these connections, and more so with the interconnecting trails between the north and the south. But that's not where it ends for, excuse me, that's not where it ends for these other state trails, because there are other state trails out there that have connections to other US 90 areas like Jackson County and Madison County. And if you are in Franklin County, there's funding for, they are also calling this the Coastal Trail as well, the US 98 Coastal Trail, which will eventually connect to the Ocklackney Bay Trail over the Bay Bridge there. They do have design for this project in 2024, and there is some construction funds within that as well. I want to say for about 4 or 5 miles worth of that trail. And then on the bottom right-hand corner, there is the Nature Coast Trail, which also has funding for a feasibility study. So what we're doing is only part of the bigger whole that DEP has in terms of the opportunity trails and the priority trails. And so as we move along, we're hoping that other counties like Franklin County has done a really great job in DOT working with them to get that US 98 trail, because that's been the idea all along, is to connect Carabel to the Capital City, to the sea trails. And with funding being the way it is, and that coming into that into that particular project, it won't be long before that connection is actually going to come to fruition. So we hope that in the near future, probably 10 years or so, that these connections will be heavily used and have some outside of the CRTPA region. With that, I hope I didn't go too fast, Sam. So, if there are any questions that anybody has, from the planning perspective, this is what we're working on, and we're hoping that in the near future that we'll be able to have more partners as we move along to try to get these individual local projects, making those connections to the greater projects, Capital City to the Sea trails, the northern trails, and so forth. So if you have any questions, please ask.
Thank you, Jack. And yeah, we did have one comment, which I did want to address. It was from AJ, who was really particularly interested in the hiking trails and just wanted to let them know that our last monthly presentation was actually done by the Florida Trail Association, which did focus on hiking. So this particular presentation is more focused on this area's multi-use trails, which are the paved trails. So I'd be glad to send you the contacts for the Florida Trail Association and let you know what is going on as far as hiking. But I did have a couple of questions. I mean, you mentioned a couple of things that I had follow-up questions on. I know that all of these projects, you have a lot of partners. Is there a way for the folks on this webinar or just the general public, I mean, that they can get involved, or what would you suggest if they're interested, who they would contact to find out more information on particular trails or how they may become involved?
Sure, Sam. So in the presentation, Sam, that you have the PDF of the presentation, I added links at the end for projects that we're working on and to the Capital City to the Sea Trails Facebook page. So within our project, because I'm not the only one working on projects, we have other staff working on projects as well, on trail projects. So there's the availability to access all the trail projects that we're working on, not the sole source for all this. And so there are opportunities in there to go and take a look at those ones. But you can always contact me within the CRTPA webpage. We have a contact page, and all of our phone numbers and emails are on that list under the contacts. And I have to say, Sam, real quick, I'm glad you brought up. You had brought up something that the Trail Go program, and I have to say, I really have to say something really great about Wakulla County is that they have never, because with the Sun Trails program, you have to have a manager of the trail. They're the ones who are responsible for maintenance, anywhere from clearing the trail to making sure that everything is removed from the trail after storms and so forth. And Wakulla County has never said no to the CRTPA about managing the trails that we have within the Capital City to the Sea Trail system. They've always said, yep, let's just add it on there, we'll add it on there. And so when we saw the Trail Go program, and Sam and I had talked about this before, is that had Wakulla County written all over it. It's a help to help the maintaining of these trails in these rural areas, which was always considered and probably still considered one of the kind of drawbacks from Sun Trails, was that you need to have a manager, and some of these counties don't have the money to manage the trails. And so that's a great program beyond the Sun Trails, which is a great program as well. So they have never said no, and I really have to say thanks to Wakulla County for all the effort that they put into this project.
Yeah, and a couple of things I just wanted to mention. I do have a couple questions that are, and just for most people on this call probably know, but the Sun Trail that he keeps mentioning, it's the shared use non-motorized trail, which is a funding program through DOT. So as mentioned earlier, that is going to be mostly for the paved trails. But one question came in, Jack, I think you can help with this, that they are currently getting their master's in urban and regional planning at Virginia Tech, got their undergrad at FSU. But do you have any advice for young planners trying to get into this field?
Well, I didn't go into so more or less I fell into, when you do transportation work, there's a wide range of transportation work. So as part of like metropolitan planning organizations go, they all have to deal with multiple modes of transportation. It's not all about roads. It's not all about transit. It's not all about, sidewalk. I mean, there's a multitude of things that you can get into. And advice is, oh dear Lord, just stick with it. Find a place that you want to be and find something that you like doing, and you can't go wrong. In the last, I'd say 10 years, I have really done heavily into the trail stuff, and I really love doing the trail work. So I think that as you start to move out of your grad program and into the workforce, and I mean, Florida has 27 NPOs. They're always looking for people, but they're always looking for people who have some good ideas as well. So just stick with it as much as you can, and won't have a hard time finding a job in planning.
Yeah, and I was would say the same thing as far as the agencies, local or state, that you can get involved in and maybe internship with, or just do like capstone projects where at your school. I think that would help you get familiar with what's going on. And I mean, no matter where you go, they're going to be, it's all the same, but it's a little bit different. And so, getting that experience, I think, with the local agencies, I think would help. One other question that we had, are there, and Jack, you might know this off the top of your head, I would have to get a map out and do an overlay. So are there any places that the Florida National Scenic Trail, which is predominantly hiking, overlaps with the other trails in this network?
Yeah, so the one thing that I didn't put on the maps because that Florida Trail is a pretty huge system that comes through the eastern end through Jefferson County. And I mean, it crosses the coastal trail, I think at least 2 or 3 times. Um, and down through St. Mark's. I think part of the trail is actually part of that hiking trail system. If I remember correctly, when you can't get across the river, you got to go, use a bridge, I guess, to get across the Wakulla River. So that's part of that system as well. But yeah, there's a whole network of those the hiking trails in there. It just, I didn't want to get that confused with what we were trying to do. So yeah, there's an overlay out there, I'm sure, with some GIS file that's out there that you can overlay that with. So yeah, it's a great system too. So I mean, they're there if you're into walking or hiking and biking, we have hundreds of miles for you.
Yeah, and I know, like I said, if I put the map up, I can show you exactly where they are. And in fact, it's Howard that's asking the questions. So what we can do, Howard, later is we can send out to the group, and this might address, I think it was AJ earlier. We could show you where those overlaps are, and how you can go from, I mean, one of the good things about regional trails is they're not just paved. They are a mix of paved and hiking, or paved and unpaved. You can do different things on it. And then the maps that Jack was showing earlier is the system, but then you see those feeder trails that go kind of off the system, and the side trails that you can go to. So yeah, we will try to send that out with, or soon after we send out the presentation later today. And then Nikki, I was just going to tell you, if you will reach out later, and I'll put my email in the chat. We can talk about maybe different opportunities that we're aware of that might help you in your future endeavors on this. One of the questions that I had myself, Jack, was you also mentioned uh, how well used the trail system was. So I was curious, and you might not know this off the top of your head, but as far as visitation numbers, do you have visitation or estimates of how many people actually use portions of these trails at this time?
So the department has started putting permanent counters out on the trails. And Sam, I wish I could remember the website that has that information on it, but you can access those and see it updates the counts for those trails. And I'll say, when you ride out on the St. Mark's Trail, a lot of times you see the same people. They see me. I mean, there's just a lot of people that use that because it's a great trail. And so I can tell you that we've been riding down on the trail, and I've had people from New Hampshire ride, ask me questions about, because we were out there, and this guy just rode up and said, "Hey, can you tell me something about this?" And he's from New Hampshire. The CRTPA also had a group of people come from Utah because they're developing or have developed a similar project or program like Sun Trails in Utah. And they wanted to come here and see how not just how the CRTPA did things, but how the DOT handles those things, and how they operate, and how the DEP how everybody fits together into making these things work. So we've taken, they were here in May, and we took them up and down the St. Mark's Trail and the Coastal Trail. So and also down to St. Mark's Wildlife Refuge and to Wakulla Springs. So they were really kind of amazed at how connected those things are. And when you have a trail and you're not dealing with, vehicles or interference from that perspective, and, the trail does cross 98 a couple times, but, you can really move around pretty quickly if you want to. So yeah, it's quite a note. So in terms of numbers, Sam, getting to your question, I don't know right offhand because it's one of those things that the department has those counters, and I want to say it's, I don't remember. Once this is over, I'll remember it, Sam. So
Well, I think, because I just went to, there was a link dropped into this is from Tanya. She dropped a link into the chat and it looks like it goes to that non-motorized traffic monitoring program, which is the dashboard. So thank you for helping Jack out. He doesn't have to do some extra work today. Because I was going
it's
to
the
look.
non-motorized traffic program. It's, yeah, that's
That's exactly. Thank you, Tanya, for putting that in there. Yeah, that'll show you all of the trails that they have trail counters on and what the visitation is. And that's specifically for the Sun Trail built trails. So that's where that number comes from.
Now, I will say that when you look at some of the information, like I'm looking, I pulled that website up. Thank you, Tanya. And I'm looking at the Woodville Trailhead and the Wakulla Station Trailhead. Typically, the trailheads have more people. When you get to Woodville and the trailhead, you have runners, bikers, walkers, skateboarders. I mean, you have a wide range of things. Typically, if they're running or if they're on their feet, they won't go more than 2 or 3 miles because then they'll realize, oh, I got to go 3 miles back the other way. So that's about my limit. So within the trailhead area, you'll have a higher number of people. When you start to get about 5 miles out from that, you'll start to see that those numbers taper off, and you're really looking at people who are either, and there are commuters out there too. So you'll have people riding up and down that trail as a commuting trail, but and then the long distance bikers are typically the ones who will be out there. But those interconnections in the neighborhoods that you can't see on that map, also there are people coming out of those neighborhoods and using the trails as well and walking around. So you've got that as well. And I know that there's one person I know who works at the St. Mark's Wildlife Refuge who rides her bike every day down the St. Mark's Trail. And now that she's got that connection over to Lighthouse Road, she rides down that way. And I'm sure she's got to be thrilled that that's over and done with so that she can use that trail.
Yeah, and one of the things too, I'm trying to think, you mentioned Sop Choppy. So in our office, we have the Trail Town program, and the trail towns really are hubs along these regional trails. And Sop Choppy is one of those, and Capital Cascades is another. So actually you have 2 trail towns that connect. And then we'll be working with other local governments. You mentioned riding the St. Mark's Trail, you can go down to St. Mark's. So we'll be working with them, and we're looking at Panacea. So a lot of those in this area. And so as you're riding those miles, you'll have a place to actually stop and rest and eat and get water or do whatever you need to do. So, but I don't see any more. Let me look. I don't see any more questions in the chat. If no one else has anything, we will go ahead and wrap this up. Feel free. You've got, if it's not on here, we'll get you Jack's email, but also you can email me. I dropped my email in the chat. If you have any follow-up questions, if you just want to ask questions, give comments, or have suggestions that we can use, we're always here. So feel free to reach out. We will be sending a copy of this presentation. We'll also have it on our website, and you can always sign up for next month's webinar and let us know if you have any questions. Thank you all for joining us this morning. Thank you, Jack.
Thank you very much. It's fun.
Thank you.